Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Ryan and I have cerebral palsy. I've used a walker my entire life. Today I want to talk a little bit about some life lessons that I've learned having a disability. Let me get a sip of coffee and we'll dive into it. The first thing I've learned about life is that you've got to be a doer and not a talker. When I was a kid, I could ride a two-wheel bike. Even though I have a walker and even though I can't balance without my walker, I can ride a two-wheel bike without having training wheels. The challenge was when I stopped, I couldn't stand. I could only maintain my balance when I was actually moving on the bike. So my dad, he would run alongside with me and then he would have to stop me and turn me around and then run alongside with me. And that's how I rode a two-wheel bike. My doctors did not believe that. So my family, they actually had to record a video and they had to show the doctors physical proof. Like, here is Ryan riding a two-wheel bike. And the doctors were in disbelief. It made no sense to them. And in fact, even with physical proof, they were still in disbelief. They were even questioning whether or not the video was edited. So the thing is, in life, you have to be a doer, not a talker. Because when you have a disability, people aren't necessarily going to take it at face value. You have to show, not tell. And even if you show, there's a good chance that they're still not going to believe you anyway. The second lesson that I've learned is that self-limiting beliefs often come from the people closest to you. When I was in 7th grade, I participated in the school science fair. Not everyone got to advance from your middle school to the district, so it was something you had to earn. I ended up advancing to the district. For some reason, my grandfather on my mom's side got triggered. The morning that we were supposed to go to the science fair, I remember hearing him argue with my mom about how, because I have a disability, I shouldn't be able to do that. There's no way that I should be participating in the science fair. I can't even walk. Turns out at the district science fair, I ended up getting a superior ribbon and advanced to the state finals. What I realized about that situation, it wasn't that my grandfather was thinking about me and my limitations. He was thinking about himself, and if he woke up that day with a disability in Ryan's situation, how would he react? He wasn't thinking about all of the preparation that I had already put into my project. He wasn't thinking about all of the work that I had already done. I was ready to roll. That's why I was able to advance. But he didn't understand the context. In life, the most important thing you can do is to not absorb other people's self-limiting beliefs. The third thing I have learned about living with a disability is that people will call you an inspiration just for existing, and that's totally cool. Several years ago, I was on a flight, and this woman came up to me. She grabbed my shoulder, and she said that God bless you, you're a big inspiration to me. I was like, all right, cool, thanks. You know, I don't know, when you have a disability, people will come up and strangers will come up and they'll say random things like that to you. I like to scroll Instagram, the disability feed in Instagram, the tag, and see what other people with disabilities are posting. And one of the things that I see often is that people get kind of turned off or offended when somebody says that, when a stranger comes up to them and says that they are inspiring because of their disability. And it's almost, I don't know, maybe they think it's patronizing, or I don't know, it's like the complaint is, just because I have a disability and I wake up, I'm inspiring. Yeah, I actually think that's cool. I don't think there's any reason why anyone should take offense to somebody saying that they think you're inspiring. And in fact, if you just existing out into the world is an inspiration to somebody, I think that's totally cool. Because the thing is, you don't realize what other people are going through. I mean, the woman on the plane, you don't know if she had a child with a disability, or you don't know if someone close to her had a disability that she took care of or that she was close to. You don't know what is going through someone else's mind, how someone else feels. It's not like I'm going out in the world and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be inspiring today. but you don't know how you affect other people. If you inspire somebody just by breathing, cool. No sweat off me, it doesn't cost me anything, and I'm glad I could bring something positive to someone else's life. The fourth lesson that I've learned about having a disability is that exclusion is a gift. We live in this world where everyone talks about inclusivity. Everyone should be invited to be a part of everything. And I am actually not a big fan of inclusivity at all. I actually am a big fan of exclusivity and excluding people. Let me tell you why. Several years ago, I ran a music venue out of my house. If you can only fit 100 people in this place, and you got 150 people outside, you've got to turn people away. And then when it came to booking bands, we would also have to exclude people too, because we would get so many people wanting to play at the venue to where at a certain point, you couldn't accept everyone. But what I learned running this music venue is that you have to exclude people. It's a win-win for both parties. It was a win for the venue because it creates scarcity, and scarcity creates value. So the more people we would turn away, the more value it created. But it was also a win for the people that we wouldn't let into the venue, whether they were bands or whether they were other people or whatever. Because we're doing them a favor by saying, hey, we're not your people. You're not our people. It's a big world out there. You're gonna find your circle. And I think the same thing applies to having a disability. There are several instances in my life where I can think of where I was excluded simply because I have a disability. And honestly, that has been a huge gift. Why would you want to be part of a group that doesn't want you to be part of it? That is absolutely insane. And to force inclusivity, to force them to include you, doesn't change the underlying context. They don't want you part of their group or their organization or their structure. And that is truly a gift, because that allows you to go find people that are a better fit for you. The fifth thing that I have learned about having a disability, your disability does define you, and that is actually a really good thing. Many years ago when I moved to Los Angeles, I would take the metro, and so I would take the red line from North Hollywood all the way down to wherever I had to go. And I would frequently bump into this woman who was about my age in a wheelchair. And she was really cool, and I remember one day she said to me that she doesn't let her disability define her. And I was like, all right, that's cool, that makes sense. And ever since then, I would see that phrase, I don't let my disability define me, all over the internet. I would see it on Instagram or wherever, Facebook, wherever. And that's incorrect. Your disability does define you, and it should, because having a disability, it shapes everything in your life. It shapes how you think, it shapes how you move throughout your day, it shapes how you interact with people. Everything about your life, if you have a disability, is adapted because of it. And to say that your disability doesn't define you, that does yourself a disservice, and that does everyone around you a disservice too. I think why people get bent out of shape over it is because what they're afraid of is by saying that, oh, my limitations don't define me. But the truth is, if you have a disability, of course your limitations don't define you. People with disabilities are naturally creative because they're forced to come up with creative solutions to solve their problems. Having a disability and embracing it, and it's the most powerful thing that you can do for yourself. Anyways, those are some lessons that my disability has taught me about life. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.